Today on the podcast, we have Arleen Pietrzak, and she is a personal trainer and breathwork coach and a friend of mine from our cold dipping community. And she is coming here today to talk with us all about that big pause and breathwork. So welcome, Arleen. Welcome to the Single Parenting Reset Show, the go-to podcast for single parents of tweens and teens who want to manage screen time, strengthen communication, and build stronger family connections. I'm your host, Tess Connolly, parent and family coach, licensed clinical social worker, and a solo mom to a teenage son.
Thanks, Tess. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm joining you from Bellingham, Washington. And normally I would try and do this outside, but today it is a little overcast and cold. So I'm inside today. But thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. Okay. So as we were talking beforehand, and we've talked about this before, a lot of the kind of the parent and family coaching that I do, I'm often talking about taking a pause and regulating ourselves as parents before we start in. And so I want to start with a little bit about the breath as like foundation and putting it into the context of parenting. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, why does it even matter that we even pay attention to our breath?
Well, that question really helps me kind of get grounded and centered, because I feel like when we're breathing, we are not only creating the environment that we're living in, but our children are living in, and we're also modeling behavior. So I think that as kids, even before they're teens, right, and they're trying to figure out the world, like how to be in the world, they're looking at how we do things as parents. So when we're breathing and our breathing becomes either inefficient or dysfunctional, unbeknownst to us, like this is definitely how I went through parenting, it can really shape the environment we're raising our kids in, which can shape how they feel, how we feel. And so it's one of the things that I find is the most meaningful change that you can make that's most accessible.
Yes. And I totally agree. And I want to back up just a little bit, just so we have an orientation to breathwork. I know what it is. I've done your course, which I want you to talk about. But for those listening who have like really maybe never heard of like breathwork, like I breathe, I'm alive. What else is there to know? Right. I'm just guessing, parents listening out there. So can you explain and talk a little bit about just your journey and getting into this? Into breath work and why it's so important.
So the whole thing about breath work for me has been unknown. Basically, I was like, I'm a personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer since 2014, and I didn't take that on until late into my 40s. So I basically went through most of my life going to personal trainers, going to practitioners because I had pain or different problems. And nobody was looking at my breathing. Nobody still looks at my breathing, which is one of the reasons why I created this breath adventure, is to give people an experience around having an awareness around their breath and the very subtle ways that when you change how you breathe, then it really does affect you biochemically, emotionally, physically. It's just like so wide ranging. And the way I like to think of it is your breath, your respiratory system, to me, is the keystone that influences every other system in your body. So if you're having troubles with digestion or with a circulatory problem or basically even depression or anxiety, your breath should be, to me, one of the first tools that you go to help support it.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with that. If there's anything happening, like just even yesterday having like a little upset stomach, my first thing fortunately, it wasn't, let me grab a pill. It was, let me just take some slow, deep breaths. Is this just anxiety? Or is this just indigestion from eating something spicy? But I just started breathing and doing this slower breathing to just kind of help and just ground me to like what's going on and see if that would shift it. And in fact, it actually did. Hi, dear ones. I'm taking a break out of this episode to give you an opportunity to come join the family. What I mean is that when you join my email list, you are not only going to get a copy of my Tech Reset Agreement, which is one of the most coveted pieces of information that I give out to parents when I start working with them. In every family, I hear about the conflict with our screen time and devices. And I've got an amazing agreement I've been using with my son since he was about 8 or 9 years old. So I'd love for you to get that, as well as being on my email list, where you're going to get tips and strategies and stories each week. You'll hear about all the different podcasts, and it's a way for us to connect in a different way outside of this podcast. So click the link right below the show notes, and I will see you on the inside.
And these are exactly the tools that I hope people can take, because taking a class, it's often like, hey, I did a retreat and I felt great, or I learned something, or I did something. But when you can take these tools into your daily life, that's where the magic happens. And it's when you can take a pause, even in, say you're in a conversation with your teen or anyone. And if you can notice, I'm breathing heavier. Oh, I'm actually getting wound up. You could take that moment to say, how do I get back to grounded? And that's exactly what I like to help people have an experience around.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So in my work, I see a lot of parents that are, they usually have tweens and teens, and they're managing a lot of behavior. There tends to be a lot of conflict, and their nervous systems get revved up, as we all do at different times. But there's a lot of like kind of quick acute stress with parenting, especially in these periods of like middle school and high school with having adolescents. And so I want to ask you kind of what happens when parents skip like regulating and calming down. I'm going to say calming down first and go straight to like correcting kids.
I like this question so much because I feel like I'm going to introduce two different terms. So when it comes to nervous system regulation, we can often hear fight, flight, or rest, digest. I'm going to give it two different terms. One of them is defend, and the other is discover. And so when we're thinking about it in that way, as parents, if we feel like our breath has taken us into defend mode, it shuts down curiosity and it shuts down collaboration. And it kind of asks us to tune us to detect for threats. So that's one of the best reasons why, when we're talking about why is it important for the parent to regulate themselves first, think of it like put your oxygen mask on first if there's like an emergency in the plane.
Yeah.
And when you start from a different place, you're basically changing the whole landscape that you guys are going to navigate over that next conversation. And you cannot control the other person, but you can take ownership of where you're at and influence it as best you can. So, yeah,
absolutely. I like that you put it into that context of like defend or discover, right? I mean, that's really kind of where in a nutshell, that's kind of where our nervous system goes. And one is obviously open to more curiosity, and the other kind of shuts down in defense of staying alive, essentially.
Yes.
And even though we parents know, I mean, you know this as a parent too, but it can feel like we are in survival mode when our teen is like yelling back at us and they're not going to give up their phone, or they're refusing to do whatever, or just refusing to go to school, whatever it is. It can feel like that. It's really not, right? I mean, we're just, it can feel like, oh God, we've got nowhere to go. And what do we do at this point? And all is lost, but it's not. And there's a way to kind of come back. And this breath work is really an amazing tool for kind of coming back and grounding. So that leads me to my next question. I want to ask, like, in real time, like we were talking about, in the heat of the moment, there's screen time conflicts, there's back talk, all that kind of stuff. What can parents do? And what is that that's what I want to kind of get into. What does it look like, and what can parents do in that moment? Something's happening. We know ideally, we know this, we just talked about it, but getting our own nervous system and being calm first. But also there's something that probably needs to happen in that moment, right? Like you do need to get out the door to school. You do need to get off that device to get to sleep, whatever it is. So I would just want to ask you, what can parents do in that moment of that high trigger?
So I hope this lands well. But basically, if you're a parent and you're in that situation, the first thing I'd ask you to do is shut your mouth.
Love it. Yes. Yeah.
So, and when you shut your mouth, go ahead and let an inhale happen through your nose. And that right there, I think I see you doing it right now, and you're modeling great behavior, because if you can picture what you might look like or what you might do when you feel like you want to invite your teen into a conversation, yes. Which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to have connection, right? Deeply, we want to feel like they hear us and that we see things and we want to share them with them. And so that's not going to happen if we haven't opened a door for connection first.
Yeah.
So when you do that, can you tell me what you just experienced when you shut your mouth? What happened?
Well, I did it, but I followed your directions right when you said it, because I was practicing it. I mean, I have a little extra energy because we're talking, which is nice. But I felt calmer. Okay. And that's something actually I've learned from you through all the breathwork challenge that you have, is to do much more keeping my mouth shut, literally, and breathing through my nose, even though a lot of people are like, well, wait, don't you need your mouth to breathe? Like, no. And there's a lot of, and I don't know if you can, we could get into that in a little bit, but talk about the benefits of nasal breathing. But to answer your question, I felt calmer instantly, just closing my mouth and then just breathing right through my nose. So
the thing is, your breath is the only thing that connects your conscious and your subconscious mind. So our subconscious mind can often feel like, it's that fear, it's the things that we can't necessarily say, this is where that comes from, or feel like we're getting logic in that. And so when you take a breath in and you activate your discover energy in that moment, what you can do is to say, oh, this is logic coming back into it. And you might feel like logic is what's prompting you to have the conversation with your tween about screen time or whatever. But sometimes it can also be layered in with overwhelming fear and overwhelming anxiety for your loved one, right? So it can definitely feel like, are you starting from a place that helps them feel like they can hear you? And honestly, I feel like there is so much fear and anxiety in the world right now, and our kids feel it. So when we're talking to them as parents, I think it can be, like, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to look like a sane, calm person. And for me, I'm saying it like as a joke, because that is not the parent I was. My kids are 36 and 33 now. So I was parenting tweens quite a while ago without any of these tools. And if I could have had a couple, I think, in my belt, especially when it felt like late at night, I'm tired, they're tired, it's like the stress of the day it just feels like it's heavy. So I just feel like I hear you. It's hard, and it's hard for them. And this could make it just that little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely. I like that you mentioned that the breath work is kind of a connector from the subconscious, unconscious to the conscious mind. Yes. And I do know this, that as a parent and also as a professional, that our prefrontal cortex, that the logic part you were talking about, flips, essentially like Dan Siegel's thing, but we flip our lid when our amygdala, which is in the back part of our brain, gets triggered. And it usually, those trigger moments, and I have them just as much as any other parent, that when we get triggered, there is also stressors, environmental stressors like tiredness coming in. But when I get really triggered and I'm sort of, my prefrontal cortex, my logic is not in there, there's usually an unconscious kind of piece that's coming. And it tends to take me a few minutes before I can really be like, okay, that had to do with this other thing that happened that really piqued my anxiety today. So that's where that was getting driven by. In the moment, it's hard to catch it. So this breath work that you're talking about is a great tool in the moment when it takes us a little bit, all of us, to kind of, for our logic to come back online after we've been triggered, whether it's with a friend or a partner or our 14-year-old.
Yeah. For sure.
So I love that you just talked about that. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about kind of modeling, because we've started getting into that, but modeling calm instead of demanding it. And so parents often ask, like, how do I get my child to calm down? I'm calm, I'm fine, and maybe they are, they are. But why is modeling regulation through our breath more powerful than telling our kids what to do?
For one thing, I think it creates a frequency in the room that you can actually feel. It's palpable. So I feel like there is a sign. I think I'd heard it through Oprah Winfrey, although I don't know if I'm giving this the right accreditation or anything, but you're responsible for the energy you're bringing into the room. And I think that that's a good mantra or a good thing to kind of keep in mind. And then when parents are wanting to pull this little tool out of the toolbox, I can tell you with certainty, and I'm certain about very few things, but certainty about this, you need to practice in private what you want to do in public. So if you're in front of somebody, if you're in front of your teen or somebody else, and you need to have a conversation with them, or basically just kind of connect with them. I feel like if your energy is anxious and fearful, maybe would you want your child to recognize that energy and to create some boundaries around that? And so I think it also invites, how do we engage? How are we co-creating this moment? And so a couple of the tools, is it okay if I just kind of quickly do a breath thing?
Yeah, I'd love to hear. Yeah.
So I'm a recovering mouth breather, and from early on. So none of these tools came easy to me, and they didn't make sense when I first tried them. I would say I actually needed to practice them daily for about 2 months. And so it wasn't like somebody said to do it and I just did it. That's not how it worked for me. When I've done this practice, and sometimes it is just an accessible, simple practice that you're going to do every day. And then you can invite your family to join you. And whether or not they do it is, I think, something to let go of. You can just put it out there and say, hey, I'm going to do this. You're welcome to join me. Maybe they could see you doing it. And for my family, they actually saw the benefit of it. So they were saying, I don't know what you're doing, but we like it. So they started engaging with me differently because I think I was changing the way I was showing up. So one of the ways I did it is this breathe light, where we're going to go take an inhale for, say, a count of 4, and try and keep your mouth closed and just nasal. So I'm just going to put this is one way. If you don't know if your mouth is open, just put your finger over your lips just to give you a little sensory input. So I'm going to in for 4 and out for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was 3 breaths. That probably took about 30 seconds, maybe a little bit more. Can you tell me how that went?
I feel so much calmer. I really do. Well, you can explain, but you have a longer out breath. What is that about?
So when we extend the exhale, we are moving into discover mode. We are doing something to physically shift our state from defend mode into discover mode. And it can be as quick as 1 or 3 breaths. So it doesn't have to sit down. You don't have to sit down and do an hour of breathing to get yourself there. And that's the other thing, is how powerful this is. When we show our kids, we get to misstep in life, right? We're going to. We are not perfect. And so when our kids see us misstep and then recorrect, reroute, redirect, those are teaching them skills that are so practical and so needed, because it isn't about doing it perfectly. And it's not about making excuses. It's about, and even if somebody said, hey, you're doing that breathing thing. Do you want to try that now? So those are just a couple quick tools. And I go into it a lot more in the Breath Adventure, which is a 21-day guided breathe for 6 minutes a day experience that I try to give people so that they can, if nothing else, just breathe for 6 minutes a day, guided. And then they usually have said, wow, I've never done that. I've been breathing my whole life, but I've never been doing it in this way. And I do try to breathe in a very functional way that isn't going to create altered states of consciousness. It's not about trying to, generate heat. This is the daily breath that you're looking for to support you day in and day out. And there are there are as many ways to breathe as there are foods to eat. So just because you've done this breath work doesn't mean you've done it all. There's still more out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have done your breathwork challenge, the 21 days. We're going to put a link to it in the show notes for everyone to see. But it is, I'm just going to put a major plug in for this breathwork challenge. It is 6 minutes a day. One is, I'm saying that for parents that are really busy and particularly single parents, but it is 6 minutes. That's all. And Arleen very lovingly and calmly, and I love, as I said, I was on there yesterday and I just listening to your voice and then going through the breath work, just 6 minutes. If you can't make one day, it's okay. You've got a recording and you can listen, but there's a kind of progression that you do in that. And it's amazing. So we'll definitely link that up below, and it's free, right? For everyone to do. And you do these, it sounds like you do them almost every month or so.
That was my goal. I'm also a sailor, so I get distracted by life quite often. But yes, it's my hope that I could do them once a month. And it really is, like I said, it's free because I feel like these are tools that I think everyone should have had all along anyways.
Yes.
Now I'm getting some pushback from people saying, well, you're providing something, you should get paid for it. I agree. And I'm looking for ways to get money, through like nonprofits or people that want to sponsor the work more than charging people to do these breathwork sessions.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. And to just go back to kind of like, we're talking about, what can I do to calm my child down? It again starts with us as parents, but one way is, as you said, it's modeling this breathing, and just that piece of doing the four breaths, the 4 inhales in, and then 8, counting 8 out. Just doing that. I'm just thinking 3 times in the kitchen before you need to go upstairs and tell your teen to, like, whatever you're even anticipating, you're going to walk in, as you were saying, your affect is going to look completely different, right? You're just your facial, what you're going to look like, and your presence and your energy is going to be much different. Just taking those 3 breaths and following that, than just charging up. Got to do it. We got to, that kind of thing. So it really is. And it's an extraordinary tool that I think a lot of parents don't really know about and don't think about, because it is so simple in a way, like it's almost overlooked, breath work. Oh yeah, we do that. We breathe. And there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of learning to it. And I know I've had you in my mom's group where you've come in and you've shown us, and I'm wondering if you can talk about that a little bit, but this different sides of the nose do different things to our nervous system. So would you mind explaining that a little bit more for parents that are listening?
Yes. So this is called alternate nasal breathing. And it's one of my favorite ways because, one, it instantly decreases the amount of air you're bringing in. So you're managing. Another tool to think about is this is pressure management on the very foundational level. So we're managing the pressure of the air as it's coming in. And if you just take this is my right hand, and I put my right thumb on my right nostril. That's how I usually start. So I'm going to inhale through the left. And then I'm going to pause at the top, pinch off the left with the index finger, and then exhale through the right. Let's just pause right there. When you inhale through the left, you're going to activate discover mode. That's the rest digest side. And so if you did 3 cycles of that, just another way to do it to keep balanced is to say, I'm going to now I ended here, right? So I'm going to now I exhaled. Now I'm going to inhale through the right. That's going to activate defend mode, but also stimulate. So say you're going to do a podcast with somebody and you're like, I actually need to be kind of alert and I need to be, going. So doing cycles back and forth of this alternate nasal breathing is helpful. But what it does is it limits the amount of air coming in. It's coming in through the nose. So we get to warm, moisten, and filter the air as it's coming in. And we're creating nasal nitric oxide, which is going to help open our passages and help oxygenate our tissues better, which is one reason why I think we can access that logic, that frontal cortex, so much easier. So this goes biochemically. And I just feel like once you experience it, you can say, okay, it might be subtle at first, but once you know it's there, I think it enhances how powerful it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I just want to review this for parents, for all of you parents listening. If you're breathing into your left nostril, right?
Yep.
And then breathing out, on the right. That triggers the parasympathetic.
Yes, parasympathetic.
Discover. So and when you say discover, I'm just going to use I know this, but I just want to use another term, is the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest, digest, as you said, and it's calming. So essentially, I just wanted press on your right side, inhale through the right. You're left on the opposite. When I'm looking at you, if people are listening to this, they're going to be like, I'm looking at her, so I'm doing the opposite of what she's doing. But I want to make it clear.
Right hand. Right?
Right hand. Yep.
Right thumb to right nostril.
Yep.
Inhale. Yes, we are looking opposite, but it's right hand, right thumb covers right nostril.
Got it. So inhaling on the left, you will. I'm reinforcing this for myself and for my listeners out there, that this is going to trigger the kind of calming effect. Yeah. Whereas if you want to do the opposite, to kind of get ready for work or something you kind of need to have a little bit of energy to do, right? You want to kind of increase your energy, you do the opposite.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Great.
And that's a great way. Thank you for noticing that it looked opposite from what I was saying. It's opposite for us, but, okay. So I wanted to ask you, as we're going through this breath work as a tool, as a relationship tool, how does a parent learning to regulate their breath actually change communication and maybe even the emotional safety in the relationship between them, the parent and the child? I think for me, like I said, when the connection feels like it's true, I feel like I don't know if I have the right vocabulary or language around that, but I think kids are extremely sensitive, and I think that's one of their superpowers. And so they can definitely feel what is happening. And I think it's one of the things that as we've been aging, we tune out we become a bit less sensitive. So I feel like the kids can see through, like you can say, I'm fine. But if you're breathing shallow and if you're holding yourself even a certain way, kids tune into all that stuff very acutely. And I think even to the point that they start recognizing somebody's saying something, but their actions are different. So I think it's another way to kind of reinforce how you show up. Can you say how it is? And even if you can say as a parent, I'm feeling very stressed right now. Actually, I am noticing I'm stressed right now. And one of the things I can do in this moment right now is breathe. That is a hugely powerful way to communicate to your kids. You're not perfect. You have anxiety, you have stress, and you're managing it. You're taking the only step you can maybe in that moment. And I think every time we do that and we're not reaching for the glass of wine and we're, not tuning out with our phones, we're modeling behavior that we want to see in our kids. So I think that also becomes just so powerful, and really just wanting to kind of spend that quality time with your kids. I can say, having 30-year-olds, I miss I miss those tween years. And
Oh my God, listen, hear that from a parent who has 30-year-olds, right? There will come a day. I know.
And I just feel like sometimes I feel like the opportunities for connection and for meaningful connection are very few. And I feel like we're all busy. Our kids are busy. We're busy. And so I think it's saying, actually, I want to prioritize this. This is important to me. So I think that those, honestly, I feel like people like being seen and heard. People like feeling
Absolutely.
like So I think it can be a way in.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it kind of, you're just more present. That's part of this, is just being present, to have that, be able to like manage, or just, work with whatever is in front of you as a parent with your child at that moment. And it does build a better connection, a better relationship. And I agree with you, like breath work, like this is anything. We can do this. We can do this in the grocery store line. We can do this driving our car. We can do this when you're listening to this podcast. You can do this breath work, and it does make a difference. It's an amazing tool, and I'm so glad to have found it through you. So I want to ask one other question. So if a parent's listening today could change one thing about how they breathe when parenting feels hard, what would make the biggest difference? Like, what could they do? One thing. The
one thing I think is to just tune in and be aware, because I think it is, again, like going into this stage in my life, I'm 59 now, and to feel like I really am just learning about this now. I feel like such a newbie in this territory. And so I think, I'd mentioned a couple of things like shut your mouth, tune in, and try and breathe through your nose. Like those kinds of things, I think, do make a meaningful impact, and continue the work. Like, I think I want to continue learning how to breathe until I take my last breath. That's basically where I'm at, because I feel like there's so much here, and the realm is so undiscovered. James Nestor had actually said in a different podcast with Tim Ferriss that one of the things you could do as a parent is to just pay attention. If you can hear your kids breathing, they might be struggling to breathe. And in this moment today, there aren't great tools to help them when they go see a doctor. So sometimes these are things we need to manage at home. We need to be finding our ability to step up and say, I can hear, you breathing. Yeah. Now what? Is it a rush off to the doctor? Maybe we could do some things here at home. Maybe your child will have a better chance of connecting with you when they're breathing in a different way. So, and this is in the podcast is on Tim Ferriss show, and it's number 829, where he interviews James Nestor. And so I encourage you to listen to that one, because it does offer some things about being a sleep-deprived child and how you might be navigating the world as a sleep-deprived child that really nobody's looking at. And so I think that helping our kids sleep better, helping us sleep better with our breathing, when we breathe through our nose, we can really help with asthma, sleep apnea, many different conditions. Yeah. So does that help?
It totally helps. And I just want to say, just for our audience, I know who James Nestor is, but can you just say who he is?
Yes. James Nestor wrote the book Breath, The Lost Art and Science of Breathing, I believe. And it really was one of the most profound books I've read and reread many times. And in the spirit of that book is how I created the Breath Adventure. Because when I read the book, I was like, that's nice. But then a couple of years later, I was like, he said this. He said people's diaphragms are like only operating about 50%. And he said you should extend the exhale. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. So I created the Breath Adventure to give people experiences to give them a moment to experience what does a longer inhale feel like? What does it mean when we're taking in air light and slow and deep? And so that's the reason why I think it's been so profound for people, is because they've never had an experience around these things. And I encourage you to read the book, Breath, and just invite you to do as much with your breath as you can. It can help with posture and pain and digestion. Oh, one of the things with your parents, I was going to say, because rest, digest, parasympathetic, discover mode, right? We've talked about 3 different ways to kind of refer to that side. Yeah. But if you sit down to a meal together and you all took 3 breaths that just were longer exhale than inhale. So you're like 4 in, 8 out, 4 in, 8 out, 4 in, 8 out. You've just primed your digestive system to digest your food better. And you just took a moment. Yeah. And so it could really change, a lot of things, how we feel, if we can feel more comfortable together.
Yeah, I really like that. I do, which even though my now 16-and-a-half-year-old is annoyed by it, but we continue a constant gratitude practice in our home. Okay. So, and so I would just say, let's incorporate what Arleen said, which is taking a longer breath. Right? The shorter in than the longer out, because it really takes your physiology down and gets you more calm. And I love hearing that it also helps your digestion, right? That primes your body for digesting properly. Because I've seen so many, I don't know what it is with teenagers in particular. I witness this with a lot of teenage boys, because I've got a teenage boy, but inhaling their food, like they're on their last meal. And I'm like, just looking at it gives me indigestion to stare at that. So that is a great practice to have that. And then say, what's one thing you're grateful for today? Like just to kind of set the stage. So thank you for that. Yeah, and we'll definitely we'll kind of like put a note in the show notes as well to that book that you just mentioned about James Nestor.
I highly encourage it.
Book. Yeah, I do know of that. So I have one last question for you that I ask all my podcast guests, and that is, what are you grateful for?
Oh, I am grateful for this moment right here and being here in this body, and knowing you. Like, there are so many things that with this gratitude for this moment and sharing it together. So thank you, Tess.
Thank you, Arleen. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being on the show. Thanks for tuning into the Single Parenting Reset Show. Remember, I'm here with you twice a week. Every Tuesday, I answer your questions about parenting tweens and teens, real life challenges with real reset strategies. Every Thursday, I bring you conversations with experts and guests who get what it's like to raise middle and high school kids on your own. And hey, if screen time has become a daily battle in your home, because let's be real, it is for most of us, I've got something to help. Grab my Tech Reset Agreement. It's a simple guide to help you create a clear, calm plan around screens without being the screen time police. Just click the link in the show notes and get your copy. Your reset starts now. Until next time, keep going. You're not doing this alone. I'm right here alongside you.